listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking to my ball. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Thursday, March 6th, Mike McDaniel's birthday. Happy birthday, Mike McDaniel. I'm your host, Michael Leva. And yes, this is episode 1 of the new podcast that I spoke about here the past few weeks. We've been promoting on social media with myself and Dougley Do-Wrong, who is now sort of aligned himself here, working with us at DolphinsTalk.com. Dougley, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It's nice. It's nice to be aligned, and I feel like Sting, where I'm like up in the rafters. I'm part of it, but I'm like waiting to come down with my bat.
Exactly. Anytime you can mix in a pro wrestling reference, it is welcome here at DolphinsTalk.com. As you know that, as we sort of spoke about that earlier this week with Zach, our friend Zach Krantz of 560, as we did the deep dive into John Cena heel turn, which again, if the Dolphins take a quarterback in rounds 1 or 2, that is essentially Mike McDaniel kicking Tua in the balls like John Cena kicked Cody Rhodes in the balls. But we're not going to go down that road tonight. That's just fantasy, playing stuff out and having a few laughs. Okay, before we get to the show, as always, a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Everyone go to Caneswear.com, the website, Caneswear.com, for the best Miami Dolphins apparel, for the best Miami Hurricanes apparel, and they got stuff for the Florida Panthers, the Miami Heat, the Miami Marlins, Florida State, Florida Gators, but really for the Dolphins. If you're a Dolphins fan, if you need a hoodie, a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, if you need a jacket, something for the home, anything with the Miami Dolphins logo on it, go to Caneswear.com, check them out. Also, if you haven't heard, Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk, only $3 to sign up, and right now we are running a contest, and if you sign up, first off, if you're already a member, you're automatically in the contest. But if you sign up, you have a chance to win this very rare, only 144 of them made, Tyreek Hill mini bobblehead doll. Let's go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. It's only $3 a month, and you are automatically entered. You get access to a private message board. You get bonus podcasts with Josh, Aaron, and myself. We run contests like this all the time. There's going to be a March Madness contest with a cool prize, and we give away stuff, and it's just a lot of fun. So go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. All right, let's get into the show. Doug, topic number 1, the Bradley Chubb pay cut. And, I know on our show on 560 WQAM, we sort of have spoken about this a little bit, and we don't have the numbers yet. Mm-hmm. But I think if this didn't happen June 1st, or he was going to be gone with the post-June 1st cut to open up $19 million. So they found a way to keep him in Miami. Now, we'll see how much money this opens up. There's been speculation, rumor, innuendo, around $7-8 million saved. Who knows? Maybe that's true, but it could be more, it could be less. I don't know. What was your first thoughts when you heard that Chubb was taking a pay cut and he will be in Miami for 2025?
First, I was happy. I was like, okay. Because before he got hurt in that Ravens game, he had 11 sacks on the season. And I honestly think against Buffalo in week 18, I think he would have gotten at least 1 or 2 more sacks because just the way Buffalo was playing, they played a horrible first half of football. So I definitely think he would have definitely helped us and probably got a sack or 2. 12 sack season is good. I'll take a 12 sack season from any of our pass rushers. So I'm happy we brought him back. And again, it's been a full year since the injury, so he should be good to go. He should be healthy. Should be at the OTAs, mini camp, all that stuff. Knowing Mike McDaniel is not going to have him do anything because that's just how the Dolphins work nowadays. We'll see. There's a culture change, so we'll see. I shouldn't be so pessimistic, Yeah. But I'm happy, and we've seen people talk about this, that the 3 guys that if they restructure and Jackson, Chubb, and Sealer will create $24 million, yada yada, blah blah blah. But what I'm getting from it, and it's the same thing I'm getting from Teron Armstead, is they probably see the change, I guess, I'll give you optimistic, Doug. They're probably seeing the change that is happening in the building, but I honestly think it's Weaver. I think Anthony Weaver is a big part of probably why he wants to come back, because I think he's going to thrive with Anthony Weaver, and he sees, like, I got Chop and I got Jaylen Phillips. I think we can do something dangerous. So I think it was a combination of those things. Plus, he hits that open market. He's probably not going to get what he got, even with the pay cut.
No, not at all. I am with you 100% there. And just to say it, because I think it has to be said, I'm glad he's back, especially if he took a pay cut and it's a more reasonable contract he's back for. But we have to factor in he's going to be 29 in June, I believe, and he's coming off his third ACL injury. He might not be the same guy from when we last saw him. He might have lost a step a little bit, and that's fine. If he's taking a pay cut and he's down at like a reasonable rate, that's fine. But I think fans have to temper their expectations. The Chubb we saw prior to his injury, he was great that year. He was absolutely great. We might not see that guy again. And I still think, they have a lot of needs this offseason. Edge is still a need because, again, Chubb, third ACL injury. Jaylen Phillips had the Achilles, now an ACL. Those are big question marks. And yes, Chop, we kind of know, and he's very good, obviously. But Edge is still a need. And I'm not even sure if the right guy falls to them in round one, if they wouldn't take an Edge, because that's one of those spots where you can just never have enough, honestly. So I think Edge is still a need. But yes, Chubb coming back, obviously, is a plus. And there's no negative spin here, especially since it does open up cap space for them. And we'll find out how much, hopefully by Monday at least, so we have an idea. Or by the end of this week, be nice, honestly. Other news, and this isn't really Miami Dolphins news, but it kind of is. The Colts today, Thursday, released Rayquan Davis. And I know Rayquan Davis this past year for the Colts did next to nothing. And I am in Miami as a second-round pick. He never really lived up to the second-round pick status. With that said, bring him home. I did not want when he signed with the Colts last year, it's not like he got a big payday. And I know he's not great. But last year, this time, roughly March, April-ish, we signed Neville Gallimore, Isaiah Mack, Benito Jones, Tierre Carter, Jonathan Harris, and Leonard Payne.
You and me.
And all those guys except for one were cut in August.
Yep.
And the one guy we kept was Benito Jones, who, not hating, just stating, wasn't very good. I'd rather bring back Rayquan. I don't want him to start as one of those rotational pieces, second string guys, because at least we drafted him. He turned into something here, and hopefully he can, get back to at least what he was in Miami. He's probably not a starter, but I know he can play in this league. I know he is quality enough to make the team. Where all those other guys we signed, yes, some of them went somewhere else and maybe made a roster. Neville Gallimore, I think, went to the Chargers and was okay, I think. But give me him over Benito Jones. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like you said, he's not a world beater. He's not a guy who's going to make a huge difference, but he is a rotational guy that, we've seen him give us something at some points to really do help. Yeah. And he's a situational guy. So, if it's for the right price, and I have a whole laundry list of free agents here, and a big portion of them I have on here because it's for the right price. Like you said about pass rusher, it's not a need, especially we got three guys, two of them are coming off of injury, but I have two pass rushers on here in Azeez Ojulari and Matthew Judon, who off of PFF are going to cost you $5 million for 1 year. Like, you could bring in guys like that are situational guys, and I feel like that's what Rayquan Davis would be in, just a situational guy to match up with Sealer, hopefully a big name that we get, whether in free agency or the draft, and have that rotation between the three of them, kind of like it was with Wilkins, Sealer, and Rayquan Davis.
Yeah, I'm just there because, again, I know who he is, and I know who he isn't, and we drafted him, and it was in round 2. I didn't agree with letting him walk, but you know what? We can kind of make this right here. Bring him back as a rotational piece. It's not going to solve anything, but I'd rather have him over Benito Jones if you're telling me I have to pick, because I saw enough out of Benito Jones last year to know there's just nothing there. It's just true. Okay. Did you see the Cameron Wolf report from yesterday on the NFL Network?
I saw tidbits of it. I saw a little clip of it on Twitter. Okay,
so here's what he said essentially, which I think we sort of spoke about on our show on 560 with Zach a little bit, that the Miami Dolphins approach this year, first off, Holland is going to make between 15 and 20 million. He thinks the Titans or Panthers seem to be the teams lurking right now.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Miami's not going to get involved because that's just too much money, which I agree with. Not going to knock that. Fine, whatever. Okay. And I'm going to circle back to that in a second. But Cam Wolf said the Miami Dolphins are going to approach free agency like last year. They want value free agents in mid-level to small signings. They are not going to spend big money. Now, it's easy to say that when you don't have any money. But we do know they can create it if they restructure the deal for Tua, if they do some other things with Sealer or Jordan Brooks. Like, they can make a lot of money, like in 5 minutes if they wanted to, and they could become spenders. But this approach, well, I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm not surprised by it one bit, because I know we hear, people in the media, local and national, we hear fans say, Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat. Chris Grier's on the hot seat. They gotta go all in. They don't care about the next guy. And I always say, well, McDaniel might be on the hot seat. I'm not so sure about Chris Grier being on the hot seat. And, to steal a line from Chris Grier, you're more worried about free agency than they are. I totally think this is coming, because first off, you look at free agency, who are the big names out there to buy?
That's true.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's not that many to be in on, one. And two, my fear, circling back to Holland, is he's going to do what we did last year. Holland's going to sign some big money deal with whoever, and then he's going, I got a third-round compensatory pick.
Oh, my God, I forgot about that.
I'm going to sit on my hands and not spend money because I don't – So I have a feeling – and look, Cam Wolf said this last year, spot on, 100% correct with everything he said. The fact he said it last night, what are your thoughts on this? Because I tend to believe him.
You just made me so depressed.
Well, it's not what we want per se, because I can make a case they should go all in. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, look, the thing with Tua, we've sort of spoken about this at length, you and me. Restructuring him, opening up that $19 million. Long term, it's not the best for this franchise. We all know that. Once again, nobody's hating on Tua, but if you don't acknowledge all of his injuries and the time missed, knowing this will make it harder to move on from him and moving forward, either he's here longer on your books, or when you do want to move on from him sooner, it's going to cost more in your cap of dead money. It makes things harder. You could make a case, though. We've gone 25 years without a playoff win. We were in the playoffs 2 of the past 3 years. If we can just fix this offensive line, get a real number 2 quarterback, and just load up on defense, let's just go for it. The hell with the future. Worry about today, and then worry about tomorrow. Like, I don't know. You can make a case that's probably what they should do at some level, but it sounds like that's not what they're going to do. And they're going to follow last year's plan, like the Jonnu Smiths, Aaron Brewer, Jordan Brooks, and then sign a bunch of old men like Jordan Poyer, Shaq Barrett, Odell Beckham on 1-year deals, and they are what they are. And then, we got to protect the comp picks, because compensatory picks are so important when they're not. But I could see that happening, Doug. I just can't.
It's sad because they came out and Stephen Ross came out and made this big old hoopla and saying status quo isn't good enough, and we recognize what we put on the field wasn't good enough, and this and that, and all we have to try to do is things different and this and that, and some might have believed. But I think a portion of this fan base, or a good portion of this fan base, was in the same boat like you and me, where it was I'll believe it when I see it. There's been so many times we, as Dolphin fans for the past 25 years, have got smoke blown up our butts. And, it's a situation now where it's like, show us. And if Cameron Wolf is right, and they go to that same situation they did last year, which again was not good enough, you raffled off the list of defensive tackles that we added, and I released my video, I think it was today or yesterday, where I said the free agents I would target. And they're not expensive. I gave you 2 names. I have a list of people on here.
I got a list too.
They're not expensive, but they are guys who can come in and make an impact and help you win. If their thought process is, Javon Holland signed with the Panthers, which wouldn't be, a shocker to me. That's actually probably a really good connection with him, especially because they will throw money at him because they're desperate. They need that star power. And Grier's thought process is, oh, well, we can't sign anyone close to that contract because blah, blah, blah. You could still get guys, like I said, like Azeez Ojulari, like Matthew Judon. Jonathan Allen's going to get cut. There's guys like Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr who are going to get cut. They're going to get paid still by their old teams that you can go and get these guys. Don't. He's going to do it again.
He's going to do it again. No. And that's a frustration a lot of fans say. That's a frustration, I've kind of been anti-Chris Grier before it got popular. But I do it's true because it's been a long time. But I will give him credit in some ways. Because I thought in 2023, the roster he put together was so stinking good. And it's not his fault guys got hurt.
Yeah,
really
that's
not.
true.
I mean, some of the guys were injury prone. Should he have signed them? You could argue that, but that's getting into the weeds on some stuff. I thought that team was so stinking good that was like their window. I know fans talk about the winning window. I think it's shut on Miami, and we're kind of in like a mini rebuild, whether fans want to accept it or not. It's just the reality of the situation. But I just think that at some point you gotta be aggressive. And I think, and I know the contract with Tua is the elephant in the room, but even if he can restructure like Zach Sealer's deal, Jordan Brooks' deal, maybe he can do something with Ramsey's. I haven't looked into it, but whatever, because Ramsey's pretty good. Aaron Brewer for sure. Like, you could open up enough cap space there, cut the punter, cut Alec Ingold. Armstead at some point will be cut, and that'll, if he doesn't retire, he'll be cut, I would assume. So, like, there's still even more money that you can get from that Armstead rock that's just sitting there after what he did. Like, you can have enough money to at least do like one or two aggressive moves, I would call. Like, not break the bank, go nuts, but like two bold moves, even if it's via trade, to get someone who's good in here. I don't know. I think it really will come down to the thing with Tua and how they navigate that. Because if they don't touch it, which I understand why if they don't, for all the reasons we've said, I don't know if they can be aggressive because they probably don't have enough. I mean, they can be a little aggressive, but they can't be fully aggressive. But if they do restructure Tua, to me, that's a signal. Let's go, boys. We're gonna go out there and make a move. We're gonna bring in someone who's like really good.
And they can restructure him. It's gonna suck more when you want to move on from him.
Exactly. And that might be soon.
You look at Tyreek Hill's contract, and this year you can move him. Like, you could trade him this year. You're going to save $400,000 before June 1st, and then after the draft, if a team didn't get the receiver they wanted, you could trade him, and I think it's like $14 million or what. But say they don't. Say they're like, hey, we need the star power. We know he's a headache, and he did this, he said that, but we need him. Next year, without even waiting, they can cut him. Like, say like after the Super Bowl's over, they cut him and save $36 million instantly.
Spoiler alert, they will.
Exactly. So if they do decide, hey, we need that money, we're going to do the option and get the $19.1 million from Tua, they could still probably move on from him in an aspect because they'll have that $36 million instant from Tyreek Hill. So it's
together with Hill and sort of navigate them together as one, even though it's totally get what you're saying. Yeah, there's ways to do it. So that's going to be the interesting thing. Miami, outside the thing with Chubb, and I know the Armstead thing was announced, sort of made official yesterday or today, whatever, and we got more information on like the official numbers. I think right now they're at like 12 million with the Chubb thing, and that should bring them to like 16, 17, I believe, roughly, just rounding off here. So that's not bad actually from where they were like a month ago. And
they were like negative 14.
Yeah, exactly. And then like a few other small moves, they can get like north of 20, north of 30, all depending on how they want to navigate this. And let's get into some of the names who are out there, because I had some names that we spoke about the other night. I know you got some. But before I get to that, quick shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to everyone listening and watching live on the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, iHeartRadio, Audible, make sure you subscribe. We're going to have shows probably every day next week with everything that's going to be happening with the Dolphins. As I said, myself and Doug are going to be here once a week, every week, straight through the draft. Then we're going to take the summer off. But then we're going to be here every week through the draft, and then we'll take the summer off, and then we'll be back in training camp. So this is a new weekly show. Myself and Big E, Ian Berger will be here next week. And I already spoke to Tom. Tom's like clearing out his nights ready for next week. I go, Tom, I don't know if they're going to sign too many guys next week, but we are ready to roll if they are with shows. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, let's go through. I'm just going to go through positions here just to keep it easy. Quarterbacks, we all know the names that are out there. Marcus Mariota has probably been the most popular name linked, and we know the Zach Wilsons, Mac Jones. And I'm going to throw Jimmy Garoppolo in just because he knows the offense. The problem with Jimmy G is this. If your starting quarterback is, quote-unquote, injury-prone, do you really want your number 2 quarterback to be injury-prone as well? Because then you really got to sign a third quarterback come hell or high water. So that's why he kind of scares me a little. Does any name out there say, you know what, if we get either him or him, I'm fine? Who are some names for number 2 quarterback you got?
So obviously Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr haven't been cut, haven't been traded. Don't know if they will or won't because it's a cap hit that they both these teams have to deal with. The one name out there that intrigues me, and I talked about that if he's on this team, say Tua is injured for 6 games, I'll knock on the wood. I think we can win 4 with this guy, and that's Jameis Winston. I like Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston with this team, with these weapons and his style of play, it's dangerous. His style of play is incredibly dangerous.
A lot of turnovers involved, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think we could win. And the game that really pops out at me was last year's Baltimore Ravens game. 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 115.3 passer rating. Now, he's going to have those. And as long as he's not our starter for 17 games, I think we'll be fine. Outside of that, like if they did go out and get Marcus Mariota, it's him or Garoppolo or anyone else really. My reaction, I wouldn't be like upset about it, but it's not moving the needle. It's not. No. It's not where if Tua does get hurt, I'm like, okay, we'll be fine for a few. Like if we had Jameis Winston last year, I think we beat Seattle, I think we beat Tennessee, and I think we beat Indy. Like 100%. The end of the year, I don't know if we beat the Jets, but I think we win those 3 games and be in a different situation. So
you're in. Yeah, I mean, if they win those games, they're in. Yeah. Funny Winston story. Super Bowl week. Yeah, Super Bowl week. He was down in New Orleans. He goes on the Pat McAfee show, and first off, he even said he kind of wants to be the next Pat McAfee after he stops playing. And he's got the personality.
He's got it, yeah.
Well, what he did was, as he's on there, Pat McAfee goes, hey, solid year, but, you still had a few pick sixes. He had everyone on the McAfee set hold hands. He bowed his head and he said a prayer to God to please deliver him from these pick sixes. We have to stop with the pick six. Jesus, Lord. And he told his head. Everyone on sets hold their hands. We're all going, amen, amen. And he said, it was the funniest thing. The guy got personality coming out of the yin yang, but yeah, he would make it interesting in South Florida with the media. They love him. But yeah, he's one. Okay, so yeah, I'm kind of with you on there. I want someone who's got some experience, who's actually played before. No offense to the Skylar Thompsons, Mike Whites, and Tyler Huntley's of the world. We need someone who's just give me someone with name recognition, who's got a little bit of a resume that's like somewhat proven. Okay, wide receiver. Now the name I gave the other night already signed, and I'm shocked he got a 1-year deal for $10 million. Tutu Atwell. Because I'm thinking he's like the perfect number 3 for Miami. Got a little bit of height. Not a starter, clearly. Got 1 year, $10 million from $10 million for Tutu Atwell? He wasn't even that good last year. That lets you know when you screw up in the draft, you got to pay. You're going to pay through the nose, really. Someone like that's getting $10 million. Tyler Boyd was the other name. Josh Palmer's another name. Any other? Because to me, Malik's a 4th wide receiver, not a 3rd. Is there any other guys you see, like a veteran who's like a number 3, but not like Odell Beckham type?
I have Josh Palmer. I wrote his name down. He really intrigued me. I have one guy that would be a dream. I don't think it's going to happen, and that's Mac Hollins. I would love to bring Mac Hollins back to Miami, just because of his style of play, but also he has that connection with Tua already with that deep pass against the Saints and the Jets. I don't know if it's going to happen though, because if I'm Buffalo, I'm bringing him back again because what he did with Buffalo was just fantastic. But that's a name that I'm really like, if I'm Chris Grier, I'd be like, hey, you want to come back? Blah, blah, blah. Because he's a good 3-4 guy. He's a good.
Got some height to him. Got a little height to him, which would be nice.
Exactly.
I know.
When we start talking prospects, man, you're going to see my list and you're going to be like, why are all these guys over 6'1"? Because that's what we need.
We cannot just keep getting short, fast guys. We got the short, fast guy. We got that covered. No team in the NFL's got, between Washington, Hill, and Waddle, we got the short, fast guy stuff covered. You got to compliment them. And I know for Mike McDaniel, he's got a one-track mind when it comes to this stuff. Once again, happy birthday, Mike. But he's got a one-track mind for this stuff. And it's like someone's got to be the adult. Mike, you need complementary pieces. You want to throw that fade in the end zone, fine. It's a low percentage play. We all hate it. But get someone who's like 6'2" at least or 6'1". He has a chance to come down with the ball. Matt Collins, again, I don't know if that's likely, but someone along those lines. That
exactly.
Again, you sign one of those guys. Hopefully not. You shouldn't have to break the bank here.
Exactly.
Running back, same deal. We got a young guy in Achane who's in year 3. Jaylen Wright, year 2, but he's really a rookie because he played so little. And I don't want another rookie running back because God forbid something happens to Achane. We got 2 guys who've never really played. So I got Trey Sermon, Kareem Hunt, and Dearness Johnson. There's some other names. Are there any running backs out there that you sort of piqued your interest?
So while I was on PFF, they do this thing where they give you like a projected contract. And this guy, they have 2 years, $7 million, $3.5 million a year. And I was like, that's perfect. And that's J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins.
I think, I think he would be perfect match with Achane and Jaylen Wright. And, 2 years off the Achilles injury, he actually played really well last year with the Chargers. I would love to add J.K. Dobbins, especially if we can get him for $3.5 million a year. 100% do that.
You get inside the 5 or 10, you put him in there, and he'll break through that line pretty quick.
Exactly.
He's built that way. Complementary piece. Tight ends. I got to admit, there's not a lot of free agent tight ends I like. And this is one spot where I would maybe try to address it in the draft. And we know with Miami, Jonnu Smith, more of a receiver, which is fine. He's great. Everyone loves Jonnu. Julian Hill, nobody likes because he's like a walking penalty. But they need a Julian Hill type, someone who can block as well as, if they can catch, it's great, but more of a blocker. Austin Hooper is like the only name because I know he can block some. I don't know how much it would cost, and I don't want to break the bank for number 2 or number 3 tight end. But if it's reasonable, Hooper. Otherwise, I'm looking right towards the draft for a tight end. Not round 1, but in the draft.
Yeah, round 1 you have
Warren, which is which I'm sure we'll get to next month.
And everyone thinks he's going to the Jaguars now because they got rid of Evan Ingram. So, he's probably not even going to make it to 13.
If they want to take him a 5, God bless him. I would never take a tight end at 5.
Right, exactly. And, you have Mason Taylor, you have Gunnar Helm, you have all these guys that are,
Rondé Gatson?
I was about to say Gadsden's son. You have all these guys. There's a guy out there on the trade block that if he's on the trade block, maybe they'll cut him, and that's Michael Mayer.
That's it.
I would do that. Now, I don't know if I trade for him unless it's like a fifth or a 4th. Sure.
Even if it's a 4th, take it.
But if they cut him, get him Michael Mayer.
What's Chris Grier's track record around 4? I'll trade the pick. Give me the proven guy.
Exactly.
Exactly. Offensive line. Again, if they do make a splash move, a big move, this is where it's going to happen. I would hope, at least. I would hope. And the name I got sort of circled is Aaron Banks, San Francisco. Now, look, he might want too much money. And he might get too much money. That's a guy, San Francisco offense will fit like a glove in this offense. Only 27. Guard, perfect. The other name is a guy for the Ravens, and I'm going to say his last name wrong, Patrick McCurry. He can play all 5 spots on the line, but he's mainly a guard or center. Perfect. If he can play right or left, even better, because then we can try to fill the other one easier. Those are the 2 guys. And then there's the 2 guys from Arizona, Evan Brown, and what's the other guy? Will something, Fernandez, whatever. Look, that's fine. But Aaron Banks, Patrick McCurry, however you say it, those are the 2. If they can get one of them, it's going to go a long way to fixing this offensive line.
So my thought process is I'm going out, I'm getting a guy, easily plug in and play. I'm grabbing 2 guys that, and they're all guards, but they can obviously move. I'm grabbing 2 guys that are up there and kind of banged up a little because Grier has to at least add 1 or 2 of those. And then I'm going to draft a guy. So, those 3 will compete, but I got 1 guy plug in and play. For me, that's Will Fries. He's probably going to cost a little. He's probably going to cost about like 12, 13 million, but you got to pay for these guys. And then James Daniels, who's coming off an injury, but he's good. Brandon Scherf, who's up there, 33 years old. Those 2 guys I'm adding, having them compete with the rookie that we would draft. I don't think they're going to draft the guard in the first round. There are tackles/guards you can take in the first round. Second round guard, have the 3 of them compete. But Will Fries is a guy, I'm probably putting him at right guard because, again, that's to his blind side. There's your starting guard, and then have him compete for left guard.
Yeah, if they invest anything in free agency, get 1 proven guard. And if it's going to cost you 10 or 12 million and they have to use up the bulk of their free agency money, go for it. That's fine. Because like I said, some of these guys we've spoken about on offense are not going to cost a lot. And they're guys who are just sort of filling a spot mainly for depth. So spend your money on the offensive line. Other side of the ball, and when it comes to offensive tackles, I'd probably swing tackle. There's guys out there. I don't know. I don't want to pay too much for a swing tackle when you can probably maybe fix that as well in the draft round 2 for a guard tackle type. So we'll see about that. Other side of the ball, this is where I would really try to fill the holes in the draft as much as possible. But there's 2 areas where we know they can't. Safety's one of them. The one name I love is Andre Sisco from Jacksonville. Jeremy Chin from Washington is another one. And also Julian Blackmon of the Colts. They got one of those guys. I think that would be great. They probably need to sign 2. Now, that don't mean 2 big-name guys. Get one guy who's like probably pretty good, like a mid-level signing, as Mr. Wolf said, which is he's not wrong. And then get someone else maybe like a little bit cheaper. So I think those are the names of safety I'm looking at.
Yeah, at safety, I'm kind of in that same realm I was in at the guard position where I add one legit guy, one name that is going to help, and then I'm drafting a guy. And I have 2 names, whether it's Hufanga or Morig.
San Francisco and the Raiders?
Yeah, one of those 2 guys where, you just plug them in. They're good to go. We don't, and then because we still have McMorris and I forgot the other safety we have in there, have them compete. And you'll probably want to get a 3rd guy.
You probably sign back Elijah Campbell or something like that. Yeah.
And then again, come after the draft. Do you remember last year? There was a ton of safeties that were still out there that were really good.
Justin Simmons was out there till like June, I think. Or July.
Exactly. So, you could still, if they do move on from someone post June 1st, which we have options there, you'd have the money and you can have, but I'm in the same mindset that I was with the guard situation.
Yeah. I actually did a little research on the guy from the Raiders, Moring. I think he's going to get a huge payday. So that might, but yes, but again, if they decide we need to pay one guy and let them some money there, he'd be that guy. But I think he's going to want like a lot. Linebackers, I didn't see much, honestly, free agency. That's probably something in the draft. We both like the kid in round 1 from Alabama, Campbell. We'll talk about that more once we get closer to the draft. But honestly, that's my guy. Him or the kid from Texas A&M, if they fall in round 1. Either one of those just wreck havoc. Defensive line, real quick. John Jenkins, bring him back home. Should never let him go. He's been playing great for the Raiders. Starts for the Raiders, never gets hurt. He's your starting nose tackle. If you can find a way to bring John Jenkins back. The other name, Javon Kinlaw and B.J. Hill, maybe. Some guys like that, one of them, I think would be great because then you could probably fill the other spot again in the draft.
Yeah, Jonathan Allen, they're talking about he's going to get cut, and I think he'll be cheap. And the Dolphins were somewhat connected with him before the trade deadline last year, so there might still be that connection. I'm not even gonna try to say this man's last name, but Levi from the Detroit Lions. Supposedly they have a projected 2 years, $16.5 million. So he's only getting like $8.25 million a year. I think that would really help, especially because he's a good 3 technique, big guy in the middle. And then if they could bring back Calais Campbell, but I wouldn't even ask him. I'd be like, listen, go do what you need to do, and if you want to come back, well, hey, we're here, because I would feel horrible.
Well, he's probably not going to sign anyways till like the summer when he wants to see who's got. Well, like if Miami like moves heaven and earth and has a great offseason and it's like, hey, you know what, this team ain't too bad. I'll stay and see what happens. Great, but he might look at Miami and go, that team's still like a year or 2 away. Let me go sign with the Lions or the Raiders for 1 more year. I could see. So with him. That's going to come June or July, I think, unless some team just blows them away with an offer. Who the hell knows? Last one's corner. Corner's a tricky one because they don't come cheap. And here, once again, because of failures in the draft, Cam Smith. Miami's kind of screwed at corner. You would hope Cam Smith, 2nd-round pick, in year 3, you could pencil him in, but we can't. So they're going to have to do something at corner. I really don't have any names because there's some names out there, but I think they're going to be so pricey. And again, I don't think Miami's going to have the money. So we'll see. Will Johnson, Michigan, if he falls in round 1, I know fans don't. So they're going to take another corner. Well, yeah.
If he's that good.
Just because you strike out once don't mean you stop swinging. You keep going to the plate. And, I mean, so corner, if you got any names, then we can wrap this up.
My thought process on that is how comfortable do they feel? Like, are you going to try to do another Fuller situation where you bring in a guy who's and hope he stays healthy? Or is this a situation where Weaver's going to be like, listen, like this is this whole side of the ball, I think, is Anthony Weaver's going to be like, I need this, and this. If you want any type of resemblance of what I did last year, like I'm really going to need all this stuff. Are they going to go big? You know, Ramsey, how much longer does he have? Are they going to win? So you got DJ Reed out there. Are they going to do the thing? You know, because if you remember in 2020, they went out and got Byron Jones, and they went out and got Kyle Van Noy, and we were all like, oh, look at what they're doing.
No in round 1 after they got
exactly. And we were all like, oh, look what they're going to do. So is Chris Grier going to go to his bread and butter, which is the corners and safeties? Is he going to get DJ Reed? Byron Murphy Jr., he's a possibility. Because outside of these guys, you look and you're like, who really's out there, you know?
Exactly. Nothing moves the needle for me. It's like I have no name. So I'm like, I'm sure they'll sign one of these guys, but okay, like whatever. Because they're probably still sitting there going, well, if Cam Smith can stay healthy, yeah, stop. At a certain point, you just got to accept reality. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but the next week should be interesting. Next week when we talk, I'm sure we're going to have a lot more to talk about, and we'll have some news, maybe even a signing or two. Who the heck knows? But Doug, thanks for this episode 1. As I said, myself and Doug will be here once a week, each week. So be on the lookout for that. Follow Dougly Durong on social media at Dougly Durong. YouTube, you know the YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type in Dougly Durong. All of his content's there. And for us, on all social media platforms at Dolphins Talk and on the website, DolphinsTalk.com. Everyone have a great Thursday evening. Have a great Friday. Rest up. Next week going to be crazy. It's going to be insane. There's going to be a lot of things moving. I'm sure the Miami Dolphins will be involved somehow, some way.
Yep.
Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe Chris
we don't know nothing.
Mid-level small signs. He'll sign the third-string offensive tackle for the Arizona Cardinals. But again, I'm addressing your offensive line. What are you so nervous about? So who knows? It could be there too. But everyone, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again after a while.